Today we're taking a look at our M39 to Sony E lens adapter, and we're going to be adapting this Industar-69 28mm f2.8 lens to our Sony E mount camera. Now this is a Soviet era half frame camera, and my understanding is this lens is actually made specifically for this camera because this lens has a unique focal flange distance. It doesn't have a standard M39 focal flange distance, so when we adapt it to our Sony E camera with this Fotodiox adapter, this lens will not focus to infinity. Now, if we use a standard M39 lens, like this one right here, this is a really old vintage M39 lens, but this does have the correct focal flange distance. So with this adapter on the Sony camera, we can focus to infinity. But with this lens, unless you modify it, which you can, there are actually some places that modify this lens for you, or you can purchase it modified. If you don't modify it, it will only focus to a couple feet. So I use this lens for shooting portrait photography and close-up detail photography, like nature photography of flowers and insects. Otherwise, this lens will not function normally unless you modify it. But even though this lens does have a lot of limitations, I really love the images I've been able to capture with it. It does have a really beautiful look. So let me show you how to adapt it to a mirrorless camera like this Sony E. Now, today we're using our Fotodiox M39 to Sony E adapter, although we also carry other M39 to various mirrorless camera mount adapters as well. This lens has a thread mount, so you're just going to press it into the adapter and then rotate the lens until it's tight, until it's locked onto the adapter. And then to mount the lens and adapter onto the Sony E camera, we're just going to line up the red mounting dot on the adapter with the white mounting dot on the camera and rotate it to lock it into place. There we go. Now we've got this Russian half frame pancake lens adapted to our full frame Sony E camera. Let me talk to you about using this lens first and foremost. With all of our manual adapters we sell here at Fotodiox, you will not have electronic aperture control or electronic autofocus. You have to manually focus the lens. In this case, you're just going to turn the focusing ring like this. Now, all these measurements are off, so you will have to eyeball it. You can't go by the distances listed here. And then to set the aperture of the lens, we actually have this little ring at the front. You actually rotate that to open and close the aperture. So you will have to manually set your aperture and manually set your focus. The adapter doesn't do any electronic communication. Here's some of the images I've captured with this lens. And as you can see, not only does it have a limited focus, it also vignettes on the edges. Now, this can be removed with a little bit of cropping, but I actually like keeping the vignetting in. It gives it that really old-fashioned, like early days of photography feel. So while I could crop it out, generally I leave it in. I just like the look of it. You'll also see that this lens does not have a lot of contrast. It's a very low contrast lens, and that tends to be the case with older film camera lenses, especially some of the lower end ones like this one. There's very little contrast in the lens. You get a very flat image, but you can always bring that contrast back in post when you're editing the photo. And again, I like this low contrast look. With this lens, it's already giving me that vintage vignette look. Having that low contrast look just adds an extra level of filmic quality to the image. Now, because this lens already can't focus to infinity, I've also used it for macro photography. And what I've done to increase its macro capabilities is I've added a Fotodiox macro extension tube. Basically, I'm just adding extra space between the adapter and lens and the camera, and the more space I add, the closer the lens can focus. And this has helped me create some really, truly beautiful macro photography. I don't know what it is about some of these smaller vintage manual lenses and macro tubes, but you can get some very unique macro looks with them. Obviously, it's not going to be as sharp as a modern macro lens, not going to be as accurate, but it is going to give your macro photography a lot of character. So when I'm shooting macro photos and I'm not using a dedicated macro lens, this little Industar-69 28mm is one I go back to again and again. Okay, that was a quick look at using our M39 to Sony E adapter with this unique vintage M39 lens. And would I recommend using it? Yes, definitely. Obviously, you do have the limitations, But if you're looking for that really unique filmic look, the Industar-69 28mm f2.8 is a great lens to mess around with, and they're actually pretty easy to buy online. I actually bought this Leica 2 half frame camera with the lens on it on eBay, but if you just want the lens, you can definitely pick it up for a pretty reasonable price without having to buy the camera. Now, if you have any questions about anything I said in today's video, whether it's about this lens, this adapter, or just using M39 lenses in general, comment below. I'd love to help you out. Also, click the links in the description below to learn more about our M39 to Sony E adapter, as well as our entire line of lens adapters for M39 lenses and Sony E cameras. We carry an entire line of lens adapters here at Fotodiox. If you've got a specific lens you want to adapt to a specific camera, odds are we can help you out with one of our adapters. And comment below if you have questions about a specific lens camera adapter combo. Click right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more videos just like this one. I'm Sean Anderson, and thanks for watching.